All right, so get ready, because today we're really going deep, diving into a part of Jesus' story that often gets overlooked. It's those weeks between the resurrection and the ascension. You know, the part where things get really interesting.
Yeah, it's funny, right? We tend to rush from the empty tomb straight to the ascension, like hitting fast forward on the most incredible part.
Totally. And for this deep dive into this mysterious period, our guide is going to be the Urantia book, specifically paper 190. And let me tell you, it paints a very vivid picture of Jesus's post-resurrection appearances, but with some, well, unexpected twists.
It's important to remember the just absolute shockwave that went through Jesus's followers, you know?
Yeah.
Like, imagine the apostles, even after witnessing miracles firsthand, they're struggling to grasp the reality of the resurrection.
Yeah, that really shows how ingrained their understanding of death was at that point.
Totally.
In fact, the Urantia book uses the phrase unimpeachable evidence to describe what the apostles needed to finally accept it.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why the way the Urantia book describes Jesus' resurrected body is so important. They call it a Morontia form, and it's key to understanding these encounters.
Okay, so let's unpack this Morontia form. What exactly are we talking about here?
So imagine this. A body that can be as solid as flesh one moment, allowing touch and interaction, but then pass through walls the next, completely unbound by, the physical laws we know.
Whoa.
That's the essence of this Morontia form. A physical body, but transformed. Not just the earthly body brought back to life, but something completely new, like it exists between the physical and spiritual realms.
That's not just a resurrected body. It's like a whole new dimension of existence.
Well,
it makes you wonder what this Morontia form could mean for us and how we understand the resurrection promised to believers.
Exactly. It suggests that our resurrected selves won't be our old bodies, all patched up, but something utterly transformed, capable of interacting with both the physical and the spiritual realms.
It's mind-blowing, really. And this concept is key to understanding the truly astonishing nature of Jesus's post-resurrection appearances. So, okay, we have this mind-bending concept of the Morontia form in mind, right? Let's actually dive into the appearances themselves. And get this, the Urantia book describes these appearances as a deliberate progression almost like Jesus is sort of revealing himself in stages. It's very carefully orchestrated, for maximum impact.
It's not just random boo, I'm back moments, you know what I mean? There's a clear intentionality to it, like who he appears to and when. Like he's following some sort of divine script.
Exactly. And it all begins, and this is really interesting, it begins with Mary Magdalene at the tomb. Can you imagine that scene? Mary Magdalene, heartbroken, she's desperately searching for Jesus, and suddenly there he is, but not quite the same as before.
And it's not just a fleeting glimpse either. The text really emphasizes how Mary Magdalene is actually present for multiple appearances of Jesus, which is, I feel like that's really significant.
Yeah, it's almost like her grief, like a profoundness of it, her devotion. It makes her uniquely able to see him in this new form, Like there's a certain spiritual dimension to perception itself. But Jesus doesn't just stop with Mary. Next, he goes on to appear to his brother James. And if you can believe it, James is still wrestling with doubt about the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
And, get this, the encounter happens at Lazarus's tomb. Talk about a loaded setting for that conversation.
Oh, man. It's like Jesus is intentionally confronting James with the impossible, forcing him to confront these doubts head on.
Wow.
Which is wild because, remember, this is the same James who probably saw Lazarus' own resurrection.
Right, exactly.
And he's still grappling with what he's seeing.
It makes you think about how even those closest to Jesus needed to really process this event, right? And the Urantia book, it doesn't shy away from their reactions. They're very human, amazed, frightened. They don't just immediately jump for joy. They're confronted with something that just shatters their understanding of reality.
Yeah, it's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. They're trying to take the Jesus they knew and reconcile that with this awe-inspiring kind of otherworldly being.
Yeah, totally. And yet there's this undeniable sense of love and recognition. Like when Jesus appears to a bigger gathering of friends and family at Bethany, and they actually reach out to embrace him, but then he vanishes. Poof, gone. It must have been so comforting, but also unsettling, all at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. It speaks to this transitional nature of this whole period. It's like he's not just back to life as usual, but he's revealing something far more profound.
Right.
It's like he's transcending our ordinary experience of life and death.
It really makes you wonder, if we saw something like that today, how would we even begin to process it?
That's the question, isn't it? And what's really interesting is that, Jesus doesn't limit these appearances to just his inner circle. Like he systematically reaches out to other groups of people. It's like he's emphasizing how universal his message and his mission really are.
Totally. And there's this fascinating detail about Jesus appearing to a whole group of women. They're given this direct commission to go out and spread the word, to go tell everyone what they've just seen.
It's really important to remember the historical context here,
Yeah.
Like this was a society where women were often kind of pushed to the sidelines. And yet Jesus specifically chooses to appear to them. Like he trusts them to be the first bearers of this incredible news.
Right. It's huge.
It challenges us to really consider who we might be excluding or overlooking when it comes to sharing our own beliefs.
It really is a powerful statement about how inclusive Jesus's message really is.
And it doesn't even stop there.
Right.
Right? He also appears to a group of Greek believers, which is like a huge turning point.
This is huge because it shows that his message is expanding past Judaism, right? It's reaching across cultures and religions.
Exactly. It foreshadows how Christianity would eventually spread beyond its Jewish roots, becoming a global faith. A faith for everyone, not just a select few. These appearances, while deeply personal, they carry this really profound message about just how expansive Jesus' teachings really are.
Okay, so these stories are already blowing my mind, but there's one more appearance that I have always found completely captivating.
Yeah.
The walk to Emmaus. Right, the walk to Emmaus. This story is like, it's practically a movie. You've got these two disciples just walking along, heads down, totally absorbed in this debate about the rumors of Jesus' resurrection, and they have no clue that he's right there, walking next to them.
Oh, it's brilliant, really. It highlights how spiritual perception is not always about what we physically see.
Right.
Sometimes we're just so caught up in our own heads, so focused on our limited understanding that we miss what's right in front of us.
Totally. And here's the thing. One of them, Cleopas, he actually knew Jesus,
Yeah.
like personally, listened to his teaching, shared meals, the whole deal.
Wow.
And even with all that firsthand experience, he doesn't recognize Jesus in this Morontia form.
It really shows you just how radical this transformation was.
Yeah.
This isn't just, oh, they brought Jesus back to life. This is a complete metamorphosis. It goes beyond anything physical. So just recognizing him based on how he used to look, well, that's impossible now.
So, they're walking along, right? And Jesus, who they still think is a total stranger, starts talking with them, gets into this incredibly deep conversation. Can you imagine having no idea you're talking to the resurrected Son of God? It's kind of hilarious when you think about it.
I know. It's a brilliant move, though, when you think about it. He's not just there to be like, ta-ta, it's me, I'm back. He's using this opportunity to really get them thinking on a deeper level.
So it's less about proving his identity, more about guiding them toward a deeper understanding.
Exactly. He's taking them on this kind of, like a spiritual journey, unpacking scripture, showing them how it all connects to his life, death, resurrection.
It's like a master class on his mission, and they don't even know who the teacher is.
I know, right?
And it's not until they finally sit down to break bread, such a simple act, but so intimate. That's when their eyes are opened. Finally, they recognize him.
That detail always gets me. The breaking of bread, sharing a meal, it's like this symbol of spiritual communion, right?
Yeah.
And in this moment, it becomes the catalyst for them to truly see. It's like this sudden flash of insight, this awakening to a deeper truth that had been right there the whole time.
And then, just like that, he's gone. Vanishes. Poof. Talk about a cliffhanger. But here's the thing. It doesn't end there.
Oh no, not even close. The two disciples, they're so overwhelmed, so energized by this encounter that they race back to Jerusalem to tell the apostles. Can you imagine trying to explain that to someone?
Okay, so we were talking to Jesus, but we didn't know it was Jesus, and then he disappeared.
Yeah.
But trust us, it was him.
Exactly. It just shows the power of that encounter, how deeply it affected them. But the thing is, this wasn't even the climax of the day, According to the Urantia book, there were multiple appearances happening, one after another. It's like this ongoing revelation. And it's not just those who actually saw Jesus who were changed by it. Even the Jewish authorities, the ones who opposed Jesus the most,
Yeah.
even they were shaken by what was happening.
It's like the aftershocks of an earthquake.
Right.
Even though they're afraid and trying to control the narrative, they're proving that something really extraordinary has happened. It's shaking the foundation of their reality.
Exactly. That's the thing about these appearances. They weren't just these isolated events,
Yeah.
They were these ripples of transformation that spread outward, impacting not just individuals, but history itself. But what's amazing is that we've only scratched the surface here. The Urantia book talks about 19 separate appearances during this time. It wasn't just a one-time thing. It was this extended period of interaction, teaching, preparation.
It makes you think, if we were faced with that kind of undeniable evidence, something supernatural, how would we react? Would we be like Mary Magdalene, open to seeing beyond what we thought was possible? Or would we struggle like the apostles, trying to make sense of it all? It's a lot to think about.
It really is.
Yeah.
So next time you're reading about Jesus' resurrection, remember those weeks in between. They're
Yeah.
not just an epilogue, but a glimpse into this whole other realm of possibility, one that goes way beyond our usual understanding of life, death, and everything in between.
It's such a fascinating, thought-provoking time in Jesus' life. And if you're as intrigued as we are, we highly encourage you to check out the Urantia book. It offers this really unique perspective on a story we all know, and it invites us to really think about the limitless possibilities that might exist just beyond what we can see and touch. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.